Hello, traveller, and welcome back to the Knapsack. The door is open. The fire is lit. Pull your chair a little closer. Every night, when the road gets heavy and the dark comes in close, I'll be here with a warm light in the window and a story worth the telling. So set your pack down, get comfortable. The road is long, but the fire is always waiting. So, let me tell you about 3 travellers I knew, and the lake that they went looking for. 3 of them came through here in late summer. A healer, a shield bearer, and a warrior, the oldest of the 3 by some way, who'd spent the better part of 30 years on one road or another, and who had started quietly to wonder whether he was nearing the end of them. The 3 were old friends, the kind who don't need to explain the silences. They'd shared enough fires, enough early mornings, enough of the particular tension that comes before something difficult, that they could travel together without filling every moment with words. The healer talked enough for all 3 of them when she wanted to. The shield bearer was steady and deliberate, the sort of man who made you feel as though nothing was going to go badly so long as he was nearby. And the warrior had a way of watching the world from slightly further back, as though he'd learned over time that things revealed themselves more clearly from a little distance. What they were looking for, what they'd been talking about over fires and slow evenings for the better part of a year, was a lake. Not just any lake. There was an account, old enough that the ink had faded to the colour of weak tea, of a lake somewhere in the hill country to the north. A high lake, so clear and so still that the stars were visible even in full daylight. Not reflected exactly, just present, as though the water had kept a little of the night inside it and refused to give it back. Whether that was literally true or not, I couldn't say. The world has stranger corners than most people give it credit for. But those 3 believed it was worth finding out, and sometimes that's all a journey needs to get started. They set out heading north and then east, into the kind of hill country where the roads thin out and the tracks stop pretending to have destinations. Loose stone underfoot, the light coming differently off the slopes at different hours, the wind arriving without warning and leaving just as quietly. The healer kept notes as they went, small fragments of things, the name of a plant she didn't recognise, the colour of a stream they crossed on the second morning, which she wrote down as somewhere between slate and silver. The way a particular hillside looked at dusk with the light behind it. The shield bearer kept a steady pace, checking the ground before he committed his weight to it, which was a habit the others had long since stopped noticing they relied on. And the warrior walked behind both of them more often than not, watching the country not saying too much. On the third day, they'd climbed higher than they'd been before, following a narrow stream up through bracken and pale rock. The stream ran dark and glass clear where it pooled, quick and white where it broke over stones. They followed it without deciding to, the way you follow something that seems to know where it's going. And then the slope levelled. The bracken thinned. The stream quieted and spread. And there, set into the high grounds like something the hills had been keeping to themselves, was a lake. They stopped without speaking. It was long and still and very clear, the kind of water that makes the sky above it look more like itself than it usually does. The hills on either side were perfectly reversed in a surface. Every slope and ridge and patch of grey exposed rock held in the water below. The light at that height was clean and slightly thin, the way it always is when you've climbed high enough. And the lake was simply sat in all of it, unhurried, entirely still, as though it had been waiting without impatience for exactly this long. It wasn't the lake from the account. They knew that more or less immediately. The stars weren't visible in it, not in daylight. When they shielded their eyes and looked carefully at the deeper sections, there was nothing unusual to be seen. Just depth. Just cold water. Just the long green shadow of the northern slope reaching across the bottom. Not the legend. But real. Entirely and quietly real. The kind of place that feels as though it's been here for a very long time and has long since stopped being surprised by anything. They made a camp on the western shore, where a shelf of flat rock jutted out over the water just enough to sit on. The healer unlaced her boots and let her feet hang over the edge, watching her own reflection in the water below. The shield bearer made the fire with the careful efficiency he brought to everything, and the warrior sat a little apart from the other two, on a low boulder at the water's edge, his hands loose in his lap, and simply looked at the lake. They ate slowly, the kind of meal where the food doesn't need to be anything in particular, because everything around it already is. The light dropped behind the western hills, and the lake changed colour by degrees. Pale gold, then something closer to rose, then a deep and quiet grey that matched the rock on the far shore. And the sky above began to darken, slowly, very slowly. The stars came out one at a time, and then, gradually, all at once. And in the lake, clearly, perfectly, without any mystery about it, they were reflected, every single one of them. The whole cold field of stars reversed in the black water, still and precise and impossibly bright. Not stars visible in daylight, not the legend, just the night doing what the night always does when it finds still water. The warrior sat at the edge of it for a long while, the stars burning in the water in front, and then, very quietly, he said, "I think this is far enough." The healer looked up. The shield bearer set down his cup. The warrior didn't say it again. He sat with it, the way he sat with most things, patiently, giving it the room it needed. And then he said that he thought he was finished with the road, not tired of it, not beaten by it, just ready to be still. The way you finish a long book and sit quietly for a moment before you set it down. The healer asked if he meant here, this lake, this hillside. He said he thought so. There was good water, the hunting would be fair, the country was quiet, and the sky was clear, and there was no one for many miles in any direction who would need anything from him. He listed it all plainly, the way you describe something that has only just become obvious. Though once he said it aloud, it seemed to have been obvious for a long time. There was a long silence after that. The shield bearer was the one who spoke first. He asked, "Are you certain?" And the warrior said that he was. And something in the way he said it, not a decision being made, but one already settled, simply being spoken aloud at last, made argument feel beside the point. They stayed one more full day, walked the length of the lake together, the three of them following the shore to where it curved around the northern end, and the water shallowed over pale gravel. They said the kinds of things that don't come easily in rooms, the ones that need open air and the permission of walking side by side. By the time the healer and the shield bearer shouldered their packs the following morning, the shock had done what shock always done when it's meeting something true. It had quietly and entirely become understanding. They left him at the water's edge. He raised one hand as they crested the ridge. They didn't look back after that. Not out of coldness, but because it felt right to let the parting be clean, to give him that quiet that he desired. The two of them came through here a week or so later and sat right where you're sitting right now. Ordered their supper and they ate it without saying very much. The healer told me most of it. The lake, the reflected stars, the moment by the fire when he'd said, "I think this is far enough." The shield bearer listened the way he always seemed to, and when the story was done, he nodded once and said that when they'd looked back from the ridge, the warrior had already sat back down at the water's edge, already still, already, it seemed, entirely at home. I've thought about it many times since, about what it takes to know when you've arrived, not at the place you were looking for, but at the one that was waiting for you all along. The cider's nearly gone. That's alright. You don't need to do anything about it. Here's the blanket. Let it settle across you. Feel the weight of it. The fire will hold through the night. It knows what it's doing. You don't have to tend it or watch it. It'll just breathe, slow and low, sending warmth across the room every few seconds, the way it always has. Whatever you've been carrying today, you can set it down here, right here on this old flagstone floor. It'll be there if you want it in the morning, but tonight, there's no road, no destination you have to reach, no version of far enough you still have to find. There's just the fire and the rain and the dark outside. Not a threatening dark, it's the soft, complete dark of a night that has wrapped itself around this old building like it belongs here. Somewhere in the hills to the north, a high lake is lying still in the dark. Stars in the water, every one of them. And at the shore, a small fire burning steady. Let your eyes be still. Let your hands be still. You've walked far enough today. The road is long, but the fire is always waiting. Good night, traveller.